So, our guest speaker today is John Delafield of Pittsboro, North Carolina. He is the founder and former CEO of Renewable Energy Services, RES, which has been delivering clean power solutions to U.S. communities since 2013. Based in Durham, RES has completed dozens of solar-based installations in North and South Carolina as well as Virginia. Many more are being planned. And the projects will not only help reduce carbon emissions, they will provide jobs. John is passionate about the impact of solar energy on the economy because he has the facts. Currently, the U.S. has about 45,000 people working in the coal industry, but 6 times that many are employed with solar energy. Sticking with fossil fuels rather than solar, a move being championed by the Trump administration, is a losing proposition in John's opinion. A graduate of UNC, John has spent years working with community leaders to bring renewable energy solutions and jobs to our towns. So please welcome him.
Sometimes I forget all those things, those good things I did. So nice to be reminded of them. So I'm John Delafield, ex-CEO of Renewable Energy Services. It is now run by my 2 sons, Matthew Delafield and Thomas Delafield. We have projects in South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, and we're working on some battery projects up in Pennsylvania currently. We've been at this for about a decade and a half. So we've seen a lot come and go. A lot come and go. I'm going to give you some examples of that as I speak because they are memorable. And I think you would benefit from hearing about them. What I'd like to do is make this presentation more conversational, if you will. So don't wait until the end to ask me a question. I'd like to hear from you as we move along. Don't make me come over to your table and go, okay, who's got a question?
Technical difficulties, but
I see that. Oh, that's better. That's better. So I too suffer from delusions of adequacy. So let's yeah, we can start here. So you guys perhaps saw the introduction, entering the idiocracy, the economic idiocracy. So where did that notation come from? So I've denoted that for you here. It was in a op-ed at the New York Times that was entitled, "Trump is Destroying the Future of America to Own the Libs," by that gentleman, Robinson Meyer. And he was the one, at least the first one I've seen, that referred to it as the economic idiocracy. So here we are. And in this piece, the phrase economic idiocracy seems to sum up a lot of the dots that I see out there today. Competence versus incompetence, malevolent or benign intent, ignorance or just plain stupid, obsession with the past or a focus on the future, getting America to where we want or need to go or not. So one of the things that I note in the room is our age. Okay, so I'm with you. I'm with you. So how were we brought up? Why is this time in our lives, in our politics, in our country, in our policy, so unnerving, so uncomfortable? How were we brought up? What were we taught to believe? What were the values that we grew up with? What was in the air we breathed and the water we drank? And I'm not talking about what the molecular makeup was. All of our parents had returned from World War II and had won a terrible, terrible conflict, but we had won. I heard it from my parents all the time. There's nothing we can't do. When I was in elementary school, they rolled in a television so we could watch every single space launch, every one. Why? Do kids today get to see every single space launch? I don't think so. Why is that? Why was it given to us sort of as a rite of passage? That we in America, this is what we do, this is what we can do. Look what we are doing. Feel inspired by this. If I can hook you or you out of all these people, this is a successful day. Boom. Okay, well, that's kind of like real life. You know, we can deal with that if we're taught how to deal with it. But the inspiration that came for that is something that I find has changed in my lifetime. So what I heard from my parents, I'm guessing that some of you in here have heard it from your parents, is I heard you can do better. I'll paraphrase that to we can do better. We in this country can do better. So why do we not hear that today? We're hearing just the opposite. And I find this a really bad thing because a lot of Americans seem to be buying this. You can't do better. The system is rigged against you. Isn't that too bad? And let me justify your worst impulses, your anger, your despair, your depression, etc. Instead of what we grew up with, and I am making a global assumption in here. What we grew up with is you don't like it, well, change it. You don't have anything to do, well, why don't you go outside and play before I give you something to do? Okay, we had a similar parenting style in the room. So where did that get us? So when I hear we can't do better, we can't. Are we at the peak? This is peak America. Everything from here is downhill. So what I'm going to show you today are some statistics that just drive this point home. They do for me anyway. Where have we been and where have we tumbled to and why? And I'm in the renewable energy business, or have been for many, many years. I was also a building contractor and I built solar powered houses. I designed and built the first interactive solar house put on the grid in Progress Energy service area. The first one, interactive. Where did this come from? Hurricane Fran. All of you were here to live through Hurricane Fran and the devastation, and all of a sudden the notion of shelter from the storm, your house. I'll need shelter from the storm. Got changed, got flipped on its head. We didn't have any power. I lived out in the country at the end of my dirt road. We didn't see a line truck for 2 weeks. I like camping as much as the next guy. However, it was amazing to me how much time I had to spend and how much energy I had to exert to get water just to flush our toilets in my house, because we were on a well and septic system out in the country, but we had no electricity. We had no way to run the pump, and therefore no way to get water, and therefore no way to flush. I don't care how many times you tell yourself or your children, don't flush the toilet if you just peed. Don't. You know, somebody go in the bathroom, okay, you know, we're creatures of habit. I get that. I get that. So all this made me think, how can we do this better? How can we do it better? Backup power. You know, in my neighborhood, what I heard was the startups of their generator, fossil fuel powered generators. Okay, good. I understand. Nobody wants to be without. But the gas station down the street doesn't have any power either. So as soon as you've run all your gasoline through your generator, you're done. didn't take into account the fellas and the ladies that needed medication, refrigerated medication, needed access to this or that, and couldn't have it, couldn't get it. Unfortunately, we've seen the same thing up in the mountains here this past storm. Communications were gone, cell phones were gone, etc. Electricity was gone, water was gone. I like camping as much as the next guy, but this is the world that we find ourselves in. How can we do it better? So I invented a thing called the solar hybrid house. Very simple. It just so happened that at the time when I began to think about this, when Hurricane Fran visited itself upon us, that the solar world was beginning to evolve to such an extent that it could be incorporated into any existing building, easily. In Europe, right now, for those who do not live in a house with proper southern solar orientation, they have what they call balcony solar. Balcony solar. Okay, so his roof is pointing in the wrong direction. Doesn't matter. Get yourself a solar panel, literally plug it into your outlet. And the power that's produced by the solar panel will go right back into your house and through your house's distribution system, the wiring. Do we have that in America? No, we don't. Why do we not have that? This makes me so damn mad. Because this has been available to us for over a decade and we haven't done it. Why haven't we done it? This is not what you guys grew up with. This is not what your parents taught you. This is not what your teachers told you. You can do better. You can do better. You can do better. We can all do better. That's just such a simple thing, such a simple example to drive home the point of what we have done in America since you and I were youngsters. We've taken a huge opportunity, and what have we done with it? We've given it to this guy. This guy is hereinafter known as China. We gave it to him. Why? So in 2001, when I was designing this first solar house, was a time that the conversation was being had as to what should we do with the solar technology. Remember the space program? Guess what we invented to power the stuff when we were up in space? Solar panels. Solar panels. So what did we do? We had a chance to manufacture them here, or we let him manufacture, because he can manufacture them cheaper than we could manufacture. Could he really? We didn't know. But the industry in North America said, we don't want to do it. So this was at the same time we had the cross currents of global trade. Okay, so the promise was if we give it to this guy, he's going to sell it to us. He's going to manufacture it and sell it back to us for whatever it was, 20 cents a watt. Instead of if we manufactured, it'd be 40 cents a watt. Okay, so that would create a lot of jobs installing, designing, building solar farms, solar systems here in America because we could get cheap goods. So we made that Faustian bargain. We took it. We did it. And now, I've got a stat for you. Yeah, global competition, period, full stop. That's what we're up against. So the New York Times published just recently the statistic of what do the Chinese export to the rest of the world in terms of clean energy. A part of the world economy they have purposefully set out not just to be good at, to dominate, to own. They want to be the number one and by a huge margin all around the world. So if Germany wants solar, Chinese guys will supply it to them. If South America and Brazil want solar, China is happy to supply it. For Americans, Canadians, whatever, it doesn't matter. The technology is coming from China. And the stat is that the Chinese export to the rest of the world, solar panels and modules, about $60 billion worth of equipment. America exports to the world, same category, 49 million. Okay? That's how far we've fallen. Where did we start? We invented the technology. We owned it. We owned it. There are still solar panels and modules in Florida that were put out in the 60s for testing that are still producing electricity. In the 60s, nobody knew what solar energy was. And a lot of people today don't understand how simple it is. But that's how badly we have botched this thing. Batteries. Another area the Chinese have determined they want to dominate in world competition. Guess whose technology CATL is using? This is a Chinese, one of the biggest battery companies in the world. That's right, it was technology invented at the University of Texas in Austin. Now they're happy to sell it back to us. Why do we do this? Again and again and again. So I was having a conversation with a fella at the farmer's market in Pittsburgh. He's got a teenage daughter, and humorously, at least to me, because she's not my daughter, her boyfriend is always hovering around when they're there at the at the farmer's market. So I ride him pretty hard. I give him a bunch of grief. Say, who is this guy? He looks a lot like the same guy I saw here last week. Do you know who this gentleman? And so on. So this young fella hasn't been able to find a job. Hasn't been able to find a job. It's been going on for months. He finally got himself a job. So I wanted to know what he had accomplished, what he'd achieved. What's your job? I'm working for Honda over here in blah, blah, blah. And said, that's great. They're a good quality company. What is your pathway to advancement? I don't know, said he. Okay, what is it that they are hiring you to do? And he said, I'm going to move cars around on the lot. So I want you to understand this, these things are connected. These things are connected. We're giving away tens of thousands of jobs, tens of thousands. And this guy can't find a job that will really light his fire. He's going to move. I said, okay, I'll give you a month and a half with that until you're bored to tears and they don't give you anything else to do. Then what? And so the young lady's father, whom I was chatting with, I pointed to, here's your daughter's boyfriend. Here it is showing up in your family right now. This is how it happens. Somewhere that you know nothing about has just given away a significant technology that's important to the world, and he can't find a job worth a damn. Okay? Did he see the rockets lifting off from Cape Canaveral? Was he inspired to do better? I'm afraid he wasn't. He's happy to get a job moving cars. This is what everybody in this room would have gotten that job for a summer job and been long gone come August. Because there's no future in that. And where does it go from there? After Mr. China gets all our money, then we can't afford a house. We can't afford college. When I went to college, when all of you guys went to college, those of you that did, here at UNC, it cost my family to put me through UNC each year $1,500. $1,500. Even my two middle-class parents could afford that. And I got $100 a month spending money. I can't fathom the pressure, the economic pressure that people are under today to provide a good education for their kids. Good grief, so that you don't, I busted ass to make sure that my kids did not graduate from college with a mountain of student debt. You've seen it for the last 5, 6, 8, 10 years. People coming out struggling with a mountain of debt. Boy, talk about a job killer. If I'm paying this guy, he's a banker. You can tell, just look at him. He's over there counting his money as he's got to make a payment to him. Well, he's over there moving cars for Honda. So he says to this guy, how about if I pay you 50 cents on the dollar? How about if we just, come and capture your assets? I don't have any assets. This is what we're doing to our kids. This is what we're doing to the next generation. Okay, now we're fighting here in America with our higher education system. How are we doing this to each other, to ourselves? The premier educational institution in America by many metrics. Let's just call it Harvard. Really? This is what we want to do. Duke University. God bless them, sort of, because I went to UNC. But I did get into Duke, so I still have a warm spot in my heart for them. They agreed to take me in. So, they've just laid off something like 2,800 people. They have hundreds of millions of dollars of important scientific research at risk. I have no problem if somebody wants to review. So he's over there. He got $200 million in grants and so on last year. Well, is he producing? Well, okay, we can talk to him. We can see what he's doing, if it is justified for next year and the year after and so on. It doesn't bother me at all. It's called accountability, responsibility. But just, hey, we're just cutting off the money supply. So close up shop, send them home, and we don't care. We don't care. That's the thing that I find pervasive. And this is so corrosive. So corrosive. What do I mean by corrosive? Any of you who've ever been to the coast of North Carolina understand what corrosive is. It will eat the finish off your brass light fixtures. It will eat up your lag bolts that hold your deck to your house, and on and on. It will make it so your windows don't open right and the hinges on your doors don't work. Corrosive. It destroys, it ruins, it denigrates. Why are we doing this to ourselves? It's not what any of you in this room were taught about America, about yourselves, about opportunity, about what to do in the face of adversity. Should we throw up our hands and accuse this guy who has browner skin than I do? Must be his fault. Where have we heard this echo through the halls of history? Where have we heard that? Is this, I'm going to say it out loud, is this America's 1934 moment that Germany had to go through? And I picked 1934 because Hitler was already the prime minister at that point. He was elevated to that position in 1933. So in 1934, it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery what's happening. So what did he do? What did he do? Not what did he talk about. What did he do? What did she do? What did he do? What did this one do? What did they do? I've always wondered about that. It's never been clear to me what was done, what was the resistance, was it possible, and so on and so forth. And here we are. We find ourselves at a strangely, eerily similar moment in history. My field of study at UNC was history. So I've read this, I've traveled, I've talked to people, I've thought about it, and it looks to me like it's eerily similar. Will it turn into something like that? I don't know. God, I hope not. We all hope not. We all hope not. But that's what we're fussing with. That's what we're fighting with. That's what we're wrangling and wrestling with. And how does that show up in something as mundane as renewable energy? Well, let me tell you how simple renewable energy is. How does it work? It's called photovoltaics. Photo is for light. There's energy and power in light. So Elon Musk, bless his heart, but not his soul, has said we have a great fusion reactor. It's called the sun. So do we really need to invent fusion reactor technology on Earth? We have the best one ever known to man. It's called the sun. So from the sun comes light energy that strikes a silicon chip, and it literally bounces an electron off of one of the circulating rings, and that electron is collected by a conductor that runs right beside every chip on your solar panel, because the lights need some electrons to make them buzz and hum and carry on. So the sun's energy is knocking that electron out, which creates a current. It's as simple as that. It's like it is. It's like magic, the magic of physics, except that it works, you know? It just works. And so in the time since I started messing with this in 2001, we have become so effective and proficient at learning how to deal with the sun's energy, how to collect it, how to store it, how to integrate it into the grid so that it comes here to this building, not as an intermittent level of electricity. Well, you got 120 volts. Oh, well, no, now you don't, because the cloud just went over the sun. So now you've only got 20 volts. It doesn't work that way. The utilities have figured out how to do this. The Germans have become really good at this. They were the earliest ones to open their grid entirely to photovoltaics. They would finance. If you said, I want to put it on my barn. Okay, good for you. Go to your local bank. They have a program that's there specifically to put solar panels on your barn. All you got to do is feed it into the grid. This is called greening the grid. Have I said anything that seems pretty complicated to you guys yet? That's the point. Thank you, ma'am. That's the point. This isn't that complicated. The smartest people that you ever knew in school, they're the ones running the integration stuff in our utilities. These guys can do it. And by guys, I mean men and women. They can do this. But when you hear, oh my gosh, you know, we're all going to be living in the dark. So it used to be, you know, let the Yankees freeze in the dark was back when we had an oil crisis. But now it's, oh my gosh, if we have too much renewable energy, then I won't have enough for my refrigerator. So why are we trying to scare you? You know, the only time you haven't had enough electricity for your refrigerator is when we've had a hurricane or something similar, you know? Otherwise, we have the most reliable, stable electric utility service in the history of the world. But let me scare you. Let me scare you. What if you didn't have enough for your refrigerator? You can't run your refrigerator at night. Really? Are we this stupid? Do we look this stupid? Who is believing this? Who? Why? This is America. Really? We want to describe ourselves as a third world country and do things that will make us akin to a third world country. Why? Why? So, okay, oil boys want to make some money. Okay. So how do we get from an energy policy of all the above to anything but renewable energy, how do we get there? Do you believe that that's a good thing? He doesn't. Do you believe that that's a good thing? So who is believing this and why? That's stupid. So back to can we go back to the dots of connective dots? Yep, before that one. This. Is it competence or incompetence? Which is it? Is it malevolent or benign intent? Which is it? Is it ignorance or just plain stupid? So is it we're doing that because she doesn't know how it works? Therefore, how did you get in charge of making decisions on how? So how obsession with the past or focus on the future? What's good for our future? What's good for our kids' future? Grandkids. Most people in this room probably have grandkids. What's good for your grandkids' future? You know, how about a future like what you had when you were 20 years old? The world was your oyster. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to study? What do you want to be good at? What's your career? What's your reputation that you're building? Are you an empire builder? Good for you. Where we want and need to go or not. The statistics bear this out. All right, let me tell you my company's experience. We are, I call us a boutique solar developer. We only do large scale utility farms, only. We're not putting them on your house, so don't even ask me. But there are other people that will be happy to do that, just not me. So how do we do that? The way it's done here in North Carolina and South Carolina, other states have a different process, is what's called RFP. I bet you guys, somebody in here has had an RFP to deal with before. Request for proposals. So this is how large organizations tell that nice gentleman, if you want to participate, we need some widgets. He says, I make widgets. And he says, send me a proposal because here's our request. And our looking forward next year, we need 5,000 widgets. Well, how much for your widgets? Well, now I find out she makes widgets too. Who? And lo and behold, so does she. Okay, you almost got in there with a no bid contract, but it's a request for proposal. Send me a proposal. Same thing for solar power in North Carolina. Because when we started this, and I use the word we intentionally, there was no mechanism to decide. We just had a bunch of people in the room going, well, I think this person bid in 22 cents a kilowatt hour. That's too expensive. Based on what? I just think it's too expensive. That's how decisions were getting made at the Utility Commission in Raleigh. I just think it's too expensive. Based on what? I don't want to pay it. Okay. Well, fortunately, that's too much. Her widgets are too expensive. His widgets are 16 cents kilowatt hour. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Because she's the ultimate payer of the widget thing. So she's going, I like her a lot, but 22 cents a widget? I don't know him, but I think his widgets are good. Okay, we haven't gotten a proposal from her yet. She's coming in there at 12.5 cents a widget. Boom, boom. So now she's just went and got herself a new Ford Lincoln. Maybe it was a Mercedes, but we'll call it a Ford Lincoln. And so she's looking good. And these guys are hustling because they're going, how in the world is she able to produce a widget that I cannot produce for that kind of money? How's she do it? Is she losing money to get the business? Etc. Innovate. What's the innovation? What are you forced to do? How can we do it better? Better equals cheaper, higher quality, longer lifetime, better performance. How can we do it better? This is what happens. This is what we're killing in the solar world. So RFPs, every year, Duke says, I want, all of you know what a megawatt is? It's 1,000 watts power. Got to have something that produces that much electricity, because she's got a big refrigerator. And she's not having it with a refrigerator not working at night. So, okay, and it by this time of Duke having done this time and time and time again, they figured out, and anybody that's halfway familiar with the geography of North Carolina knows that the coastal plain, flat, trees have already been cleared. Why don't we put a bunch of solar down there? Doesn't that, good. But people in Asheville need it too, and Charlotte, and Winston-Salem. So we need some over there. So what Duke Energy has done is basically give geographic locales to the RFP bidders to say, we need 300 megawatts in this area, not at this crossroads, but in this area of North Carolina. So we don't have to use the sunshine down east and send it out west, because you lose electricity. That's inefficient to ship it along those high power lines that you see out along the highways and byways. Okay. So this past year, I think it comes out in September, the RFP. Duke said, we want between 900 and 1,000 megawatts of solar generation. Okay. It's a pretty fair chunk. So my company, God bless my kids, that they found somebody. Here's this nice lady right here. She inherited 1,000 acres. If you go back in her family history, it was land grant land from the king. They're out there. They are. And it's fascinating history. So she's got 1,000 acres. I'm going to talk to her. Ma'am, would you be interested in leasing 600 acres for a solar farm? Give me the details. We'll pay you $1,000 per acre per year, guaranteed for 40 years. Not guaranteed by me, because she's going, I don't know him. What if he's dead 20 years from now? He doesn't promise me 20 years over and beyond that. So Duke Energy guarantees that. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a bankable customer in the world of finance and industrial development. If you say Billy Bob's hardware store will underwrite me, you're not getting into the game. If Duke Energy says they will, you're a player in the game. So that's how it happens. We won 6 out of 11. Correct. That's more than 50%. My little company with 3 employees, 6 out of 11. It's impressive. I love my kids. They're so good at this. 6 out of 11. That was this year. Last year, we won 5 out of 7. Year before, and so on. We've killed it in the RFP process because we're good at it. How can we do it better? That's what I'm saying to you. It does provide you a pathway forward if you look at the world in that way. So then, okay, so we're thinking we've got nearly 500 megawatts of generation. This was 6 substantial solar farms distributed hither and yon. Well, you may have noticed a couple of months ago, we had a piece of legislation cross the desk up in Washington that just killed the renewable energy, not just solar, wind, solar, et cetera. So, just to give you an idea of the magnitude here, assume that for every watt of electricity that we put the capacity to generate into the ground, that's $1. That's $1 for each watt. So 100 megawatts, $100 million. Okay, everybody hear that? $100 million for one good-sized solar farm. So what did these guys do? They cratered the 30% investment tax credit. What they began to say was, when can I have my investment tax credit? Well, remember, this guy's a banker. So it's going through his financial apparatus. He's got to come off of close to $100 million. So here's something I can tell you for sure about the money boys. That's what I refer to them, the financial industry in America. They will tell you how much money they have. They will talk about how happy they would be to deploy it with your company. And there's more where that came from if we have a good relationship. Okay, now let's inject a little bit of uncertainty. Heretofore, your investment tax credit would be given to you, credited to you, when you began construction. Okay? Now, they say, no, it might be credited to you when the project is commissioned. Commission means turned on, complete, finished. CO, certificate of occupancy in residential lingo. So he's a money boy. Do you think he's happy now knowing that $100 million of his money, his firm's money, whatever it is, she's a teacher, he's handling your retirement pension. Should he invest in my project? Last year in a solar farm connected to Duke's grid, it doesn't get any more bulletproof than that. And he's making 7% on his money. Okay. She's got a retirement pension she can depend on. Well, now you might get it upon commissioning. Okay, what does that mean? It means you might not get it. You going to give me the money? Yeah, exactly. He can't bring himself to say no, but I guarantee he's thinking it. Or something more stable, something more identifiable, something more recognizable, something without the risk. So those of us who've been in this business for decades have spent years and years de-risking this process, convincing him that we actually do know what we're doing. Duke Energy actually will pay the money, and the whole thing will work exactly as it has been set up to. But
We need to have our Zoom audience.
the runner.
Here.
Yeah, enough megawatts. So, what impact do you believe small nuclear reactors are going to have on renewable energy?
None for 10 years because you're not going to see them before that. So when they come, is the impact going to be on renewable energy? Is it going to be on coal fire or gas turbines? Which is going to be hurt the most by introduction of that new technology? I believe it needs to come. I do. I'm not opposed to a new, nuclear technology. I'm not. I know it's got a crappy environmental tail to it. There's nuclear waste that after all this time, we still haven't figured out how to deal with this. Okay, why don't we shoot it into outer space? What if it blows up in the Earth's atmosphere, et cetera? We still haven't figured out how to reuse it, recycle it, reuse it for another purpose. I don't know. I'm not a nuclear physicist. I studied history in college. So, I had to teach myself all this stuff about how's our power system work. So, okay, we won all these RFPs. We've got approximately $500 million of business. My little company. Well, he's got a solar company, she's got one, and he's got one. Put them all together, it's a very large number. So the people that wrote this bill were intent on one thing and one thing only, and that was to kill renewable energy. But what they didn't talk about is the $500 million. What does that go to? She grew up driving a bulldozer, so she's going to run the loader on the job site. So I'll show you a picture a little while of this project down in South Carolina. And I talked to the guys that were running the show down there. So I said, I saw Caterpillar equipment all over the site of this thing. So let's get a picture of me up there. There I am. Okay. So Carrie and I went down to see this installation. It's the biggest one that we've ever done. But there are people out there that this is what they do for a living. They're big industrial electrical contractors. It's a blue collar job fest. The number of, as we are now referred to, elites that actually have anything to do with this, you count them on your hands and your feet. The other 150 people that are working on that site, high school guys, driving a loader, bringing diesel fuel, pulling wire, running conduit, digging trenches, setting fence, etc. The problem I had taking a picture was this thing is so big, I couldn't get a good picture of it because what you're seeing here went on and on and on. 600 acres is a lot. And she would know because she has 1,000 acres from a King's land grant way back when. I know she's smiling. Okay, it was only 750. All right. So this $500 million that isn't going to get deployed, what are we going to do? Because every one of our submittals was done, the arithmetic was done before there was any bill. Now there's a bill. So none of the figures that we used to support our submittals, none of that arithmetic works anymore. So for all 6 that we won, none of them will be built. Okay? I want you to know that this is what is happening in the real world. None of them. That's our 6. And the other 5 not getting built either. And what does Duke do about this? They said, we will not let you edit your submittal. You'll have to submit again next year. None of it is getting built. Is that what we want? Is that what you want here in North Carolina? That's just here in North and South Carolina. Is that what you want? Because that's what's being done in your name. In your name. So this is why I say it's not what we talk about. What do we do? This is our time. What do we do in our 1934 moment? What do we do? All right. So as I imagine some or many of you guys, you walk a protest line. You have your signs that say, we don't want a king. Okay, good. I don't either. What do? So what I heard on the radio this morning is the Israelis are pissed at their government for the crap in Gaza. And who's out leading the protest? It's the poor parents of hostages that are still captive after years. Terrible, terrible. For those of us who've had children, you couldn't bear that heartache. So what do? They're not walking around the courthouse circle going, this is what democracy looks like. They're out in the streets stopping traffic, saying, F you, no effing way. We're going to close businesses. We're shutting it down. We will be heard. We will not stand for this. What do we do here in America? I'd like to see somebody get arrested. I haven't seen it yet. I have not been in LA. And so thank God I haven't seen that kind of stuff in my neighborhood. So how do all these things fit together? That guy at the farmer's market who has, I'm just getting going. And I wondered if I could talk for 20 minutes. Okay. So we're not deploying that capital, which means that our primary funding source in California is not deploying that capital. It's a piece of Caterpillar equipment, because I can tell you, every piece of Caterpillar equipment I saw in that lot was brand new. They're not building them. And that boy doesn't have a job with a pathway to advancement, to change, to do better. And this is what's getting done in your name. So what will we do next year? We'll take all those projects, we'll resubmit them, we'll just raise the price because we've lost a tax credit. Wasn't our fault. We didn't do anything to deserve that, but it's gone. So we'll just resubmit them, and instead of it being, we'll say 10 cents a kilowatt hour, it's now 13 cents a kilowatt hour. That you're going to pay it. Thank you. If that puts me and my boys to work, thank you. But this is what is happening. And at some point, it takes a bite out of the economy and the jobs start going away. The jobs start going away. So could we, this is another one. There were two of these almost side by side. We killed it that year. But the same thing, I couldn't take a good picture of it because it just, it's enough for 10,000 homes coming right out of there. All right, let's go, both of those, 10,000 homes each. Look how big this is. So I'm sitting in the supervisor's truck and I just notice, goodness, this is like from here to the other side of the world. You can't see the other side. But I said, where does the solar field start? I said, way over there where the trees are. So there are trees on the other side of that water tank. Way on the other side of that water tank. So each one of these for a 75 megawatt project has 250,000, okay, 250,000 modules, solar panels. So that's tractor trailer after tractor trailer, 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, coming through the gates of this place. 250,000. Okay. So truck drivers benefit from building solar. It's a job. It's a job. It's a good job. That's a lot of wire to pull. Somebody had to put those panels on those racks. Well, that's just the labor guys. So when I grew up in Greensboro, Cone Mills and Burlington Industries were over there. So if you were a total screw up, and I mean total, you could always get a job sweeping the floors at Cone Mills. Okay. If you're a total screw up, you can carry solar panels. Used to be able to, not anymore. So let's go again. All right. So this is the point I was making. As a consequence of the BBB, none of this solar generation will be developed. None. Okay, go again. These are big industrial projects. You know, most people that think of solar think of solar on a rooftop. This is the point of interconnection. This is how we connect to the grid. Who builds this stuff? It's the same people that build the interconnections to the grid if you've just built a nuclear facility. It's the same people. It's the same process because an electron is an electron. All right, give me one more. There we go. So, can it get worse? Yes. Again, done in your name, right here in the state of North Carolina, there was an agreement between Roy Cooper's administration and the Republican legislature in North Carolina. That what do we do in North Carolina to lower our carbon impact? So Duke said we will agree to legislation that says that by 2030, we'll reduce our carbon emissions by 50%. Huge improvement. How are we going to do that? Well, we fought tooth and nail. You need to do it with solar. You need to do it with batteries. You need to do it with wind turbines. You need to do it with geothermal. Anything that doesn't have emissions is okay. Well, now we don't have that because our Republican legislature voted to remove that obligation for Duke Power. Now they don't have to do it. So now 2050, they're supposed to be 100% carbon free. How do we get there if we just took away the biggest incentive that the biggest utility in the number 2 size utility in America, now they don't have to pay attention to anything. We'll deal with that 2050. I'll be dead in 2050, pretty sure. This guy looks in good shape, though. He will live to see it, unfortunately. So, poof, gone. So what do they say about that? 20 billion, let's go back one. 20 billion plus of new renewable energy investments in North Carolina will not occur. So it's not like there are, all these jobs already happening and we're going to fire everybody. They just won't even occur. Go back to the fella at the flower market, the farmer's market. The jobs just don't occur and he doesn't know why. Why am I having such a hard time getting a job? That's why. We can do better. We can. So where I started in this was a thing called clean smokestacks. You remember that? You remember that? All of a sudden, you start looking around. Charlotte is in the top 10 of the worst air quality in America. How did that happen? When did that happen? Wait a minute, we're not done there. Winston-Salem, Greensboro, the Triad, they have the worst air quality. They're in the top 5 in America. How did this happen? How it happened is there were no emissions controls and Duke was just burning coal. So we raised holy hell. This is the first time I testified before the Utilities Commission. And I said, guess what? We can do better. So when I grew up, there was no such thing as a red ozone alert day. Okay? Then there was. And my 2 kids were in elementary school and they couldn't play outside. That was it. All the other stuff that I had not heard, had not registered, well, damn it. These are my 2 sons. We can do better. I'm going to get involved. And so this is the part and parcel of my journey through this industry, through the politics of this, through the science of this. This is how it started. Clean smokestacks. A guy who ran an outfit called Cardinal Energy out of Raleigh, one man, came to the Utilities Commission and said, I want to be in charge of developing renewable energy in North Carolina. And the Utilities Commission looked at the Duke lawyers there. Do you have an objection to that? No, sir, we don't. Progress Center, do you have it? No, we don't. They couldn't imagine that this would be big enough for them to actually care about. They saw it as, oh, it's just like, do you have a little barky dog that bites at your ankles? Go away, go away. That's how the utility saw renewable energy in North Carolina as we started out. Well, somewhere that weekend, that was Friday, by Monday, both Duke and Progress said, we changed our mind. We do want to be in charge of developing renewable energy in North Carolina because we might need it. And somebody had said, what if it does grow to be something significant? Then what are you going to do? Those guys like their monopoly just the way it is. And renewable energy, teeny weeny, why do we care about you? And I said to a Duke guy one time, I bet you $5 right here that you don't have a gauge, a meter, a way to tell how much the solar I have on the rooftop of my first interconnected house is putting on your grid. Would you agree with that? And he thought about it a minute because he knew it was going to cost him $5. And he said, no, we have no way of measuring something that small. 2,000 watts was what I put on, 2 kW on the roof of a house.
We're gonna have to wrap it up.
Are we?
Yeah.
I'm available after hours. Okay, so then let's just finish this up. Okay, thanks for the prompt. All right, so so just want you to have an idea of what the industry is here in North Carolina. So we got somewhere around, 13,000 employees that are directly employed in renewable energy in North Carolina. So there are lots of different facets of that. Okay, and that's from the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, and across America, we got 3.5 million. That's something, that's a number, out of a total of 8.4 million in the entire energy industry. So energy industry, that's nukes, that's gas, that's oil, all that stuff. And we got almost half of it. One of the fastest growing job in America was a wind turbine technician. For me, I'm scared of heights. When you go up that thing, you're up there. So anyway, just to give you an idea of the impact that renewable energy's had on this country since we started in 2000. That's when it started. It's only 25 years old. Okay, next. All right, so this is the thing I wanted to show you. I gave you these stats earlier, but this is available in an article in the New York Times. So there's lithium ion batteries. China's exporting 65 billion, United States 3 billion. Solar panels, China 40 billion, United States 69 million. Electric cars, China 38 billion, United States 12 billion. So let me finish up this. Go ahead, and I think we're getting to the end. So some takeaways. But I want you to understand, so this was a gentleman who was speaking and was drawing he said, here's why electric vehicles are important in America. 1940, England produced 500 vehicles and light trucks. France, 300,000. Germany, 400,000. America, 4.5 million. That's why we won World War II, because we had the industrial and manufacturing might and the people to make it happen. Whereas England, France, Germany, Italy, etc., they didn't. Now it's the exact opposite of it. China has the capacity to produce 50 million cars a year. Last year they built 31 million. America built 10. I want you to note the exact reversal of the power and might of industrial manufacture. We have made a Faustian bargain for a cheaper thing, and we have put ourselves in a big vat of hot soup. And if you don't believe that, I invite you to just start reading. Start reading. This is where we have put ourselves. This is why that boy can't find a good job. You go over to Greensboro, where I grew up. There was a steel mill right there on the southern side of town. Not no more. Excuse me, not anymore. So why do we do this to ourselves? They haven't found enough. Because the evidence is here. The evidence is in. All the stats you want. If any of you read the New York Times, I was making a joke to my girlfriend that, God, I can't get to the end of this presentation because every time I think I've kind of put a ring around it, there's another article that, oh, well, that's important. I need to share that with them. It just has been writing itself day after day after day after day. But the final takeaway, here it is. Corruption is an economic killer, because he, with the widgets, Mr. 17 cents a widget over there, he's thinking, well, if I can give this administration $200,000, they'll buy my widgets, even though yours are cheaper and better, and even though yours are cheapest and betterest. Okay? For $1 billion contribution. He said it out loud, promised to do the fossil fuels bidding. This is what you're seeing. Anything but renewable energy. Anything but. All the above strategy thus became anything but renewables. But it discounts the importance of global competition. Are we ready to really compete with the Chinese for this marketplace? You know, are we? What are we going to do? Not what are we going to talk about, what are we going to say to each other? Oh, I'm so frustrated. I'm just so frustrated. Great. What are you going to do? Do. What are you going to do? Job creation versus job destruction. CapEx, that's capital expenditures, investments canceled with national security implications. And this is how I used to sell my solar houses, because I found out that a lot of people didn't want to talk about environmental benefits. But they did. They were interested in a solar house. Okay. So that's why I got, national security implications and health and air quality and climate and. That's where we find ourselves. So I hope that I've given you statistics, an interesting timeline through this, the growth and emergence of renewable energy as an important technology for America. So I will close with this because it is just classic. We're up north of Roxborough, holding a municipal hearing for the approval of 2 100-megawatt solar farms. You've seen how big they are. You've seen how much money they drop into a community. 2. This in a place where progress is just enough. We're shutting down that coal-fired power plant. So what do these people do? They vote down both of our projects. Kill them both. That would have been $200 million coming into your community to build these things. No, we don't want that. We don't want that. Who says that? These people did. And the classic thing is, at the commissioners meeting, here is a guy dressed, well, he had on shorts too, and he had a gun in a holster on his side. And he stood up and he said, I should not be forced to accept electricity that's generated from a solar farm. That impinges on my freedom. I'm not kidding. I'm not exaggerating. I'm quoting this guy. It was all I could do to not jump up and go hit that guy with a chair. So is it ignorance or is it stupidity? I would put that one in the category of that is rank stupid, So you don't get to choose where your electrons come from. I don't care what you like. Do you have a question for me?
No,
Okay. All right.
I was just about to say, we're an all-volunteer organization. We depend on contributions of members. And so we pass the basket at every meeting, and you can see the baskets going around.
Yep.
Yep.
Very good.
Now, are there any
Or
questions?
as they say, open your hearts and your wallets. Okay. So anyway, it's been my pleasure to put some of this on your table, to challenge you, to ask you, what are you going to do? Not what are you going to say to your neighbor, what you're going to do. How are you going to help change this? How are you going to help the next generation that needs us? Hell, I even told my son, it's time for you to run for federal office. The world needs you. He went, really? Yes, really. Okay.
Let's
Enough
give
said.
a,
Thank
let's
you
give a
kindly,
hand.
everybody.
Due to the lateness of the hour, we will probably not, we'll take maybe 1 or 2 quick questions.
And then after that, we'll go into just sort of informal.
Yeah,
mode.
and then we can have informal
However
meeting
you-
back and forth. So does anybody have a
Who's got one?
question?
Come on. Have to have said something that enticed you, was curious to you, angered you. whatever it is.
I'll take
Okay, all right.
dealer's choice here. So my question to you is, you brought up a topic that I think has been around in human society for a very, very long time, and that is governments pursuing policies contrary to their own interests. Famous historian Barbara Tuchman wrote a whole book about it.
Yeah.
Is this something that we just can't help as humans, or have we just somehow fallen astray? If it seems like it's just ingrained in our ability to coexist with each other.
Okay, good question, good question. So number one, I have no idea. I don't have the answer to that. I've certainly thought about this a lot though, because if in my my lifespan, I can no longer say in my short lifespan because getting up there. I've not seen what I'm seeing now. And what I'm seeing now is political representatives voting against their constituents' economic, industrial or job opportunity. In South Carolina, there is a European company that, because of the legislation that was passed during the Biden administration, came in and built a facility to build batteries. $1.5 billion. Okay. Big. This bill passed. Oh, and it was going to employ 1,500 people. So every Republican in South Carolina voted for that bill, the BBB, killed that job. They walked away from it. It's sitting as a vacant facility right now. I've never seen that. Not at this scale. Sure. You know, somebody does want a school, doesn't want a school. Okay, we can fight about it. Does want a highway there, doesn't want, we can fight about that. But the kind of job destruction that I have seen in the last 2 years, hell, 6 months, is absolutely astonishing to me.
So the answer basically is,
I think we have fallen off the rails.
we're going to have to stop, I think, because we
Okay.
have to do some announcements and then refreshments. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. If anybody else can come up with an example during a 10-year segment, 20-year, 40-year segment, where politicians in this country voted against job creation, industrial expansion, growth, I'd like to hear it. Your experience may be different than mine. I'm not familiar with it. And I've looked and my boys have looked. We haven't found it.
Okay,
Thank you,
it is.